how does Joe Jorgensen plan to deal with racial tensions in America? Well, we're seeing this unfolding right now. We're seeing a public that is dealing with the fact that a large no, the bad big government solutions that have come from the Republicans and Democrats have led to the harmful and inequitable and abusive outcomes that one would expect from such arrangements. And so we're all being harmed, and there are some communities that are being harmed even disproportionately worse. People of color, gender and sexual minorities, and other marginalized communities, the poor, people that have less power and influence, who are being treated as largely, in some cases, as second-class citizens by a government that isn't that worried about them, doesn't really care about them. And so what Joe would do is to make sure that the civil rights of every single American in this country are being protected by removing things like the war on drugs, which is disproportionately used against people of color, but again, is being used against everyone. Ending a big thing that we don't talk about often with gun laws, which are rooted in originally stopping freed slaves from being able to defend themselves against the Klan, and to this day are still being disproportionately enforced against marginalized communities, the poor and communities of color and so forth. We'd end the war on guns by abolishing the ATF, and just a host of other things, removing the federal government's stranglehold on all of us, which unfortunately is also disproportionately used against communities that have the least ability to fend themselves against it. We would end things like cash bail, end things like no-knock raids, end things like civil forfeiture, where the government takes your money. If they suspect you of a crime, they go ahead and take everything you have. Then they send you to trial. So you haven't even been tried yet, much less found guilty of anything. And they use your own property and money to pay for your prosecution and leave you in a situation where you have no ability to be able to pay for your own defense. And if by some miracle you are found not guilty or the charges are dropped, you then have to sue to get your own stuff back, even though they've already acknowledged that they shouldn't have taken it to begin with. That is what civil asset forfeiture is. So we would end that. We would end qualified immunity. We would make it so that when an officer does something bad or when a government official does something bad, they can't simply say that they thought it was reasonable and have everything dropped and not be held accountable. So we would end that as well. So those are the things that we would do, because ultimately all of these problems, all of the problems with people of color and other communities that are being disproportionately harmed, they all boil down to too much power in the hands of too few people. And that is a system that has been set up by Republicans and Democrats, and we will break that up. That is Joe's plan.